if your internal world is chaos, then your external world will absolutely be chaos. That is a guaranteed thing, right? So how can we step into a space and place where we can bring certainty to any uncertainty? We can, even when there's chaos going around outside of us, we can have a certain equilibrium within us, a certain calmness, a certain, I guess, equipoise where we are sort of one-pointed. And it takes a lot for us to be sort of blown off that. And I think this is a really important thing to start looking at. And we can so often get caught up in these New Year's resolutions where we go too hard, too early. We can get caught up in this concept that, we need to be super disciplined. We need to be going every day. We need to be pushing really hard. And the truth I've found is we need to live this life of this middle way. And the Buddha summed it up beautifully. He goes, how can we live a life between earthly desires and extreme forms of self-denial? Because if you sort of restrict things in your life too much, like you say, oh, I can't eat these foods, or, I can't have a drink every now and again or whatever, then potentially you're setting yourself up for actually even more suffering, right? You're living this earthly experience, enjoy it, but in moderation. Everything in moderation. Even too much exercise can actually be really bad for you. Too much water can actually be really bad for you, believe it or not. Too little food, not good for you. Too much food, not good for you, right? So we need to look at how can we structure our days, our weeks, our months, our years in a way that starts to bring this equilibrium, this harmony back. So we need to look at things at a day-to-day basis. We need to look at things as a weekly basis. We need to look at things as a monthly basis. We need to look at things as over 12 months, how we can do that then over years as well. And this might seem a little overwhelming, perhaps, hopefully not too overwhelming, but really it's about having the awareness of, am I more, in the doing right now? And do I need to create some more space for the being? Do I need to maybe spend some more time in the doing? And how you can actually have a compound effect over time in your rituals. For instance, let me give you an example. In my days, if I just jumped on the computer from the very start of the day and just worked all day long, that's too much in the doing. That's going to have a very detrimental effect on my mental health, physical health, my relationships. They'll all probably turn to shit over a period of time. Maybe not in one day, maybe not in 1 week, but maybe not in 1 month, but over time, if I was just doing, just focusing just on work, would that have a flow-on effect in a detrimental way to other areas of my life potentially? Yes? Yeah. So imagine if I structure my day in a certain way where I have some time in the morning for myself, to be self-will, to move my body, to meditate in the morning. Then I do a little bit of work in the first half of the day, which is very focused, have some quality time, or hit the gym or something like that in the afternoon, have quality time, have time for some creative pursuits in the afternoon, and then have the weekends off. Is that a way more sustainable approach to living my life on a daily basis and living my life on a weekly basis? Yes? Make sense? Yeah? Yeah? Now, this is an important thing to look at, because then monthly, imagine if every month I was running events every month, I was running workshops every month, and I was doing them every weekend. Would that have a detrimental effect on my health? Absolutely. My relationships? Absolutely. Right? And guess what? Things that I really love to do and I was passionate about, I'd probably start to resent. So it's important to schedule things in a certain way in advance so that you have time for being. You have time for personal growth. You have time for travel and adventure. You have time for your relationships and having quality time with yourself and others, having time for stillness. And even yearly now, I realize like what the year previous was like and what I need to lean into and step into on a yearly basis. So for instance, this year is more about how I can be more. So if I showed you a list of all the things that I'm stepping into this year in terms of personal development, spiritual development, I'm doing my yoga teacher training again. I'm doing some more Ayurvedic studies. I'm doing a Vipassana again, which is like a 10-day silent retreat essentially. And there's not really as much sort of business stuff in this year. I did a lot of that last year. And the year before that, I did a lot more sort of personal development stuff. So it's about being aware of where you're at in your journey and not looking at, doing is always going to reap results. Sometimes you need to pull it back and have some time for being, because in the being, there is motion and stillness. Otherwise, I'm like just like a hamster running on a wheel, burning up all this energy and potentially not really even going anywhere. So it's important to have that time for stillness as well. And you need to like really do a self-evaluation of where you are and what is going to serve you better this year. Is it going to be a year that's maybe like 40% doing, 60% being, or maybe it's like 70% being, 30% doing? And how can that flow into your days? Obviously, depending on where you are in your journey right now, you may have to have a year to really get some things going where you are a little bit more in the doing. I've definitely had years where I'm like 80% doing and 20% being. And I'll be really honest about that. And those years, I didn't come out necessarily that great in terms of my health, but it got a lot of momentum in my business. I'm not saying that that's necessarily the way to do things, but I'm telling you that it will give you some sort of a result. But my key thing these days, and this is learned experience, sustainability. Play a longer game. It's not a sprint. Life's not a sprint, because if you finish the race, guess what? You're dead. So think of things as a bigger picture and look at how throughout the year you can bring sustainability to the picture. Yeah. You can't work 7 days a week, 12 days and be just going, smashing yourself at the gym, working like 12-hour days on a laptop. Not, you know, it's not sustainable. So you need to look at how you can structure the time you have to have an equal amount of doing and being. And maybe and what that equal amount is right now, depending on what your goals are this year, you may need to be slightly more in the doing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you need to make sure the times that you're in the being, you're not half doing it. That means if you're having quality time with your partner, you're not on this. Yeah. That means that on the weekends, when you have time off, you're actually having time off. In the evenings, when you switch off from technology, you're actually switching off from technology. Otherwise, guess what you're doing? 100% doing and never and zero in the being. Make sense? So it's important. It's really important. And I'll give you a really quick example of what this could look like, because we are moving into this now. Here's just an example of if you work, say, 9 to 5, for instance, right? How this could potentially look. You know, you could get up in the morning, have some time for you, some meditation. You could go to the gym, but then on Tuesday, because if you smash yourself in the gym every day, that's not sustainable. But you could do maybe like some dance stuff on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, you could do a swim. Yeah, you could do a yoga class on a Saturday morning. Yeah, you can see there the person works from 9 to 5. They finish work and they then have like a beach walk, or they break it up and do a yoga class. They still have some time for date night, so quality time, and then they have the weekends off for travel and adventure, right? This is just an example of what this can potentially look like. Yeah.